What's up, y'all? We got some breaking news to the roster. The Pittsburgh Steelers are making some changes. This time they've released former starting cornerback Akili Weatherspoon. We'll talk about that and how this affects the Pittsburgh Steelers and what this means for the Pittsburgh Steelers and much more. Please hit that like and subscribe button and ring that notification bell if you're not already done so. That being said, I'm Daniel J, the State of the Steelers, and welcome to the huddle. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are releasing former starting cornerback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Akili Weatherspoon. After a year plagued with injury, he had the hamstring injury for the majority of last season, which really plagued him, didn't allow him to be on the field. And I guess everybody does know that your best ability is availability. And last season, Akili Weatherspoon just was not available. And when he was, it didn't look good. There was multiple times where he was getting burnt, he was being left behind. He did not look like a cornerback one. I know the prior year in 2021, he ended up having a few interceptions. Um, three to be exact. And going into this year, he had one interception the first game of the season against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals in a game where the Pittsburgh Steelers took the ball four times away from the Bungles. A game that, if the offense did their job, probably would have been a huge blowout. However, the offense was struggling early on. But, all eyes were on the cornerback position and the defensive backs last year. And to start off the year, it sounded like they were moving in the right direction. And Akili Weatherspoon grabbing an INT looked like he was going in the right direction as well. Hamstring injury plagued him, didn't finish the season, ended out on the injured reserve, and now he is gone. So what does that mean? That tells me that the Pittsburgh Steelers are content and happy with the players that they have at the position. I feel that they probably tried to get away from him for a trade. It just probably didn't work out. Couldn't get anything. And so now they release him, save some money on the cap. And like I mentioned before, I think that when it, release an Akili Weatherspoon prior to training camp, after rookie mini camp, that leads me to believe that Cory Trice and Joey Porter Jr. are probably on the right path and doing the things that they're supposed to do. And the Steelers feel comfortable releasing the veteran one-time starter and with knowledge that they got some guys that are behind him that can fill in the position um, good enough, just about as good, or even better than what Akili Weatherspoon could have done at that time. So, it's a move that I didn't see happening until after or during the middle of training camp, given the fact that you probably want to go in with as many quarterbacks as possible. You also want to utilize any former starters and veterans on your team, even if you plan on moving forward or moving on from them. You want to utilize them as trade bait. Injuries occur not just with our team, but with through many teams throughout the NFL, and I can imagine that one or two will go down during training camp, and that phone would have been ringing for the Pittsburgh Steelers to see if they would, really do a trade there in that situation. Now, maybe perhaps Akilo is just kind of being disgruntled. He sees the writing on the wall, has asked for this release. Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers are famously known for wanting volunteers, not hostages. And so, in this situation, similar to like the one with Arthur Maulet, it could have been a situation where it was mutually agreed upon on both sides, and that the Pittsburgh Steelers felt that it would be okay to release him given the depth that they have in the cornerback room, which is one that has been a concern for many of us. With the loss of Cam Sutton, I know the Pittsburgh Steelers acquired Patrick Peterson, and Levi Wallace being the starting outside cornerback from last season, who played fairly okay. Early on, he was also having he was getting burned quite a bit often as well. But however, he was able to turn that around. Levi Wallace, that is. Now, Levi Wallace is not a fast guy. He's that's one of the reasons why he was a walk on in Alabama and why he became undrafted was his speed. And when you're going up against the likes of Amari Cooper, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, even OBJ now with the Ravens, you're going to want to have a guy that can keep up, toe to toe, so to speak. And Levi Wallace is a very cerebral player, very smart guy, athletically and talent wise. He may not be in the same ballpark with some of these receivers, and so the position was required an upgrade, and the Pittsburgh Steelers went out there and got a Patrick Peterson, drafted a first round graded cornerback in Joey Porter Jr., and then, in my opinion, got a steal in Cory Trice, a guy that fell. Not sure why he fell. Maybe it's his length, maybe it's his size, maybe he had a couple of injuries early on in his collegiate career. but he did fall. He was, expected somewhere around the fourth, fifth round. Ended up going in the seventh round to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Athletically gifted, can move side to side. Has that height and length, and perhaps make it a little bit more difficult for quarterbacks to fit in the ball. It's very similar to what a Joey Porter Jr. physical traits are, and so I think maybe perhaps the Steelers are content with the depth in that room, looking for volunteers, not hostages. Ended up with the cut of Akili Weatherspoon. Also, in other news, the Pittsburgh Steelers look like they're going to be re-signing one Mason Rudolph back to the roster. It kind of gives an opening there if things don't work out, or if the Pittsburgh Steelers are content with his ability, and maybe perhaps one of the newer guys that have come in, one of the undrafted rookie free agents, that perhaps maybe there could be a move off of Mitch Trubisky. Now, that's a move that I wouldn't make until training camp, when if there is a possibility of an injury somewhere else in the league at the quarterback position, and that somebody may be looking for a veteran to fulfill their needs there. I think that Mitch Trubisky could be have or hold some pretty good trade value once or if that situation does arise. And I'm fairly confident in Mason Rudolph's ability to be a backup. Of course, obviously, if something were to happen to Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph isn't the guy that you want going in there. But, in all honesty, how many backup guys are, you comfortable with starting them, longevity portion of the season? Not very many. They're backups for reasons. When it comes to Mason Rudolph, he's at least been in this offense for a while. He's been under Matt Canada for a few years, longer than any quarterback in the room. Also, he's been on the team longer than any quarterback in the room. So he understands the city, understands the fans, and knows his place this time around. Last season, when he was going into the into the regular season, or into the training camp, I'm sorry, he was at least under the impression that he was going to have an opportunity to be the starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers and get a chance to show what he has. And that never, took place, whether it was because of his performance in the past or his performance during training camp. He clearly lost the battle between Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky and himself for the starting role, and was pushed all the way down to third on the depth chart. So maybe it's perhaps his athletic ability, or the lack thereof. When you look at a Mitch Trubisky and you look at a Mason Rudolph, a Kenny Pickett, you're looking at guys that can move within the pocket with their legs, make things happen with their legs, and create time in the pocket with their legs. Mason Rudolph, he has a little bit of happy feet, or at least he did early on in his career. But for the most part, he's the guy that where he's going to be. Opposition doesn't have to really game plan for his ability with his legs or running down the field. Perhaps that's why he had a big run against Detroit, is because that's not something that they're going to be planning for or against. And, in my opinion, I think this gives you at least some options if somebody calls and picks up that phone for Mitch Trubisky during training camp, or during, at any point during this year prior to the trade deadline. So in my opinion, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers keep Mitch Trubisky for now, but they do pick up that phone call if somebody does call in and, try to persuade them to move on. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. Remember, please hit that like and subscribe button, ring that notification bell. We appreciate all the new subs and everybody else that is new to the channel. We'll be covering more stuff as more stuff comes out, and also breaking news. But with that being said, I'm Daniel J. This is State of the Steelers. Peace out.